SBC Media.
Welcome to the iGaming Daily Podcast, analysing the news from the betting and gaming industry all over the globe, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market.
Hello, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about Brazil. Again, since the first step towards regulation happened, when President Lula signed Law 14790 in December last year, new developments have occurred in Brazil. So far, 3 law ordinances have been published, and last weekend's latest one established new rules for operators and what they need to follow when dealing with payment. So joining me, Isadora Marcante, your host on today's episode, to talk about this is Ari Celia, Director of Institutional Relations Advisor at Pay for Fun, a leading payment e-wallet in Brazil. Ari, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you, Isadora, for the introduction. Yes, we are very excited with the regulation finally happening in Brazil. I've been too long in this market. I started here in 1994 with the first bingo law in Brazil. And you know, for the past, I'd say 15, 20 years, we've been waiting for that specific regulation for iGaming. So yes, we are all very excited.
I can imagine we are waiting for this moment for a very long time, like you said. So thank you for being here today and for explaining how Pay for Fun works and what this new regulation, the law ordinance that we're going to talk about, payments and the law 14790 published last year happened. But first things first, we can't start this episode without telling you about our sponsor, Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. 56% of the EGR Power 50 personalized player experiences with Optimove. And as a special offer for our iGaming Daily listeners, Optimove is offering new clients a free first month when they buy Optimove. For more information and to claim the free month, go to optimove.com/SBC. But don't worry, links will also be left in the podcast episode description. So, Ari, let's start from the beginning.
Okay, well, we are a PSP, what we call here in Brazil a payment institution, or IP in English. We started in 2018. We started with 5 shareholders. I'm one of them, founders. As I told before, I've been for a long time in this market. One of also the partners, Leonardo, which is the CEO, he was at that time, before that, he was working on the operation side for an operator. And so we knew the difficulties for offshore companies to receive money in Brazil because of the non-regulated scenario. And mainly the difficulties to send the money abroad legally, you know. We always like to make a point here that although iGaming is not regulated yet or is in process of, the financial scenario in Brazil is very, very regulated by the Brazilian Central Bank. So the task at that time in 2018 was, it was very great scenario for sports betting, especially, or casino games, etc. So we thought, well, is there a way we can do it 100% legally? Because there were pilgrims here doing this. They were doing the best possible way, but we knew some of the problems they were facing. They couldn't be present. Some of them, they couldn't have an office because everybody was afraid. They didn't have ways to take the money out legally, as I mentioned. They were using crypto, dollar dealers, whatever was available at that time. So our idea was let's see if there's a legal way to do it properly. So we found a legal opinion. We said, yeah, there's such a way. We opened offices here in São Paulo. We started contacting all the 5 major commercial banks in Brazil and said, look, we need a bank account. We're going to be doing this. And of course, their first reaction was, are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? And then we talked to their compliance and said, look, this is possible. We're not doing anything wrong. The idea behind here is that the operator is outside of Brazil. They are licensed in their jurisdiction. The game itself is happening outside of Brazil. All we're doing is collecting the money, and helping them taking the money out or doing payouts, whatever. So then we had started the operation. Then we had to go to another step, which is the FX banks in Brazil, because the FX regulation here is also very strict. And there was another battle to convince those guys that we could take the money out correctly, legally, to whatever operator outside of Brazil. So that's how we started. At that time, that was, remember, 2018 was before PIX. We're going to go into that. But at that time, we decided the best solution, that was also a part of our legal opinion, was to have an e-wallet. And so we started with the e-wallet model, which we have approximately today 2.3 million active users. They are loyal customers. They can even use PIX to fund their accounts. But of course, the PIX gateway, which we also have since 2021, when PIX started, is taken over because it's very simple and easy for everybody, for operators, for us, and mainly for the customers. So that's basically how we started.
Well, you mentioned PIX. Before you didn't work with PIX, and then when PIX was launched, you started working with PIX, and now the regulation came last year with the signing of the law 14790. How did pay-for-fun operations changed, and what impact do you think this regulation have on the Brazilian economy?
Okay, well, just a little background. Since we started, our idea was to apply for the Brazilian Central Bank authorization. So since day one, we were very concerned about compliance and governance. Although our, whatever competition we had here at that time, they were not with that in mind. That was always our goal. And so in 2021, when we reached the central bank triggers in terms of volumes of transactions, we applied for the license. That was a huge step for us because, we always had this feeling of being on a gray market. So we didn't know how the central bank would see us. Of course, probably they knew what we're doing, but it's different when you send the application, say, look, we want you guys to regulate us, to look on us and to authorize us. And this authorization in Brazil, it usually takes between 1.5 years, 2 years to get it. And to our surprise, we received that in 9 months. So in June 2022, we were the first PSP in Brazil to receive a central bank authorization as a company, a PSP focused on the iGaming market. We were very proud of that. That brought us also a lot of responsibilities in terms of compliance and governance. Just to give you an idea, probably 1/3 of the employees of today of the company are in the compliance, governance, and risk team. So this is what we started selling to our operators. Look, we may not be the cheapest, which we are not, but we are the most secure place for your money. Because, for example, every money that we have, that we handle from the operator, from the local customer, we must insure in federal bonds. So the central bank is always watching that. They send us communication almost on a weekly basis if they see anything that is not matching the numbers. And so we always have to pay attention to that and make sure everything is insured, let's say. So going to your question, for us was easy, because that's what we wanted. That's what we're looking with the regulated market. And that's exactly what this legislation and the ordinance from last week is saying. Best practice, basic principles of governance, risk management, everything. So we already have that in place, So we see this as something that we wanted. We fought for that with the Brazilian government. But we are prepared. We are ready to rock and roll.
Well, you mentioned the law ordinance. Let's talk about this then.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this third law ordinance was published by the Prize and Betting Secretariat on the 18th of April and set specific rules for operators when accepting and transferring money between the website and the player. Mm-hmm. Well, amongst the details, two of them stand out. Sports betting sites cannot offer bonuses and promotions to its users. That we were expecting this already because of the regulation last year, and cannot accept payments with credit cards. How do you think this will affect not only players, but also the companies, especially because a lot of companies accept credit cards and offer bonuses to its clients?
SBC Leaders connects the gambling industry's top-tier operators and associations to share the best ideas, collaborate on solving the biggest issues, and push innovation throughout the betting and gaming industry. If you're an operator and want to join the discussion, visit sbcleaders.com for more information.
Yes. Well, I think for the operators, the bonus part is the most important because, as we know, the majority of the operators have their marketing efforts targeting new customer, market share, acquisition, etc. on bonus. So it's going to be very tricky for them to change their mind on that, So I'm pretty sure the government will enforce that regulation. They will make sure no one is trying to go around that with offering whatever promotion that could be seen as a bonus. So I think for the operators, it's going to be, again, very challenging. They will have to change their minds. But I'm sure, people are very good at turning around when they see a difficulty. But this one is going to be big. But again, it's going to be for everyone. So they will have to find other ways in terms of marketing to go over that. What was the second part you asked me?
About the credit cards.
Oh, the credit card, yes.
Yep.
Oh, this is not a problem. This is not a problem. We at Pay for Fun, we always thought that the legislation has to address responsible gambling. So this is a main problem. I personally very in favor of that. I think if you wanna bet, if you wanna play a casino game, you must have money in your pocket, or in your bank account in this case. No money in your pocket. But giving credit, it's the beginning of the end, because then you get people that they think they will recover their losses, and that's so it's, for me, it's 100% assertive decision of the government. You got to have money to bet, to play. So I don't think there will be an impact on that, because today very few operators they offer credit cards in Brazil that I'm aware of.
You think not even like smaller companies that operate in Brazil could be affected?
Well, I think for smaller companies, they have a bigger problem than that, which is the 30 million BRL upfront money they have to pay to apply. That's roughly $6 million. That's a lot of money for a small and medium-sized operators. The only upside of that, if I can say, is that the legislation say, well, you can get together 3 companies and 3 different brands and split that money, but it's still $2 million. So for each. So that is also one of the most important part of this regulation. I have operators, they are very concerned about this payment upfront. Some of them, they don't have the money, and they will probably they'll have to leave Brazil. And we as a PSP will have to stop servicing them, because after that 6 month period, after the initial application period, they will not be able to, well, actually, we will only be able to service whatever operator that has the license, the local license. So during ICE in February in London, I talked to a few operators and they said, well, that's too much for us. Because of the results we're getting today in Brazil, we are not proceeding. We'll stay until we can, but then we'll have to quit Brazil. So, I think this is more important for them than the credit card issue. The credit card is not I don't see it as a problem, the lack of credit card. Again, this is very concerning. During the gaming events, some people, they get together to make a bet to see how many operators will apply in Brazil, will be able to pay for that money. This is something very interesting. I'm very curious to know how many companies will be interested and will have the money to be there. And this is, I think, it's the trickiest party for the Brazilian government. How they will enforce the legislation against the non-licensed operators. Because if they don't, the ones that are paying taxes, the ones that pay the upfront money, they'll say, what do I get from there? You're not enforcing the rail, I have unfair competition. So this is, for me, it's probably the trickiest part for the government here, for this legislation to be successful.
Yeah, especially this new law ordinance that we have an article there that says that the companies need to have 5 million BRL in a bank account just to make sure that they can cover anything that happens. Like, it's an emergency account. How do you see that? How does Pay4Fun see that?
I think it's this is more on the operator side. So I'm giving my thought here. I'm not on the operator side.
But this could affect as well, like your operations, because you combine forces to provide to Brazil.
Yes, I understand the position of the government, where they're coming from. They want to be as safe as they can be in terms of complaints from the society. They don't want to create a monster and having people, parties, whatever, a community knocking on their door and say, what have you done? This is out of your control. So one of the problems is, we know some operators, they use this money, the betting money that is on stake, for other things like marketing, payroll, whatever expenses they have, which is wrong, So I think that's the reason for that. The ordinance says, first of all, the operator has to separate that money, whatever belongs to the players and whatever is their money, their operational money. And besides that, they are allowing the operators to get a line of credit with local banks. If you need money, you got to go to the bank and get that money to support your operation. And this extra 5 million minimum, I think it will be more, probably. It's going to be based on the volumes of the operator. So I know it's another barrier. I see that, but it's for the, for the good, for the system, for everybody. It's important for the customers to know they'll have support in that sense here in Brazil. We've seen a few operators, again, small ones, they were targeting Brazil, and suddenly they disappeared, and some of them, they didn't pay back whatever they should to the customers. And we got complaints from the players saying, those guys, you were processing for them. I said, look, I'm just an intermediary. I'm sorry to say that. Unfortunately, they have that behavior. So in this sense, this whole structure, financial setup, let's say, for the operator, I think as very important for the players.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the government needs to cut off the bad apples and keep only the good ones, right? And especially that we see so many new unlicensed companies being launched every single day, especially on Instagram and on Facebook. And the client doesn't have any option to reach out for customer support to get their money back or to get the money they want or any kind of support that they should have when playing with their own money in an online casino and sports betting site. So,
just one comment, Isadora, with this, when you mentioned so many unlicensed operator on the Instagram, for example, just make a point here. We do not accept them, right? We do KYC on every operator. We demand at least one license from any jurisdiction. We need to know UBOs, directors, etc. So we only accept currently licensed operators.
Yeah. Well, because of that, Pay for Fun is announcing new integration partnerships with operators, right? The most recent ones are with Vida Vegas, Vaina Boa, and Orbet. What is the importance of these deals with international licensed operators? Because we're not yet offering licenses in Brazil.
Yes.
But they do have licenses out overseas. So how important is this? Not only to Pay for Fun, but to the Brazilian sports betting and iGaming market and its players?
Well, we see at this moment, we are still accepting new integrations, new operators from abroad, because, this is, although there's a strong movement towards the regulation, they are talking about the application, the ordinance for the operator to put their application on to be released still this month, and then there's a 6 month. But we gotta keep in mind that Brazil is always subject to delays, so we cannot stop accepting companies if there's a delay. It could potentially, instead of 6 months in whatever September, October, it could be postponed for next year. So there's no sense for us to stop those new operators. So we are currently doing business as usual. We are still talking to a few operators that are a little bit late, but they are entering Brazil right now. And but on the other side, we have I am already discussing agreement. I have already 4 or 5 operators, international operators, that already have a company in Brazil. They are ready. They have offices here. They are setting up customer service, marketing team, etc. And we are already negotiating a new contract, because it's going to be a new contract. It's a local contract. And so these people, they are very interested, and they want to be the first ones to apply. So that's basically the scenario. We are in a transition, so everything is cool.
Well, before we go, what our listeners and Brazilian players and the industry in general can expect from Pay for Fun this year when we talk about fast, secure, and flawless payment processes?
Well, you can expect a lot. Besides our e-wallet and Pix Gateway that I mentioned, in May next month, we are getting our direct Pix. So this is going to be a huge step for us, because from the moment we get this direct Pix, that means we are a direct processor of Pix directly with the central bank system. So our e-wallet, which today is a graphic account, will become a transactional account, like a bank account. So the users of the e-wallet, they will have the ability to process Pix between send Pix, receive Pix, like a regular bank account. They will be able to pay their bills. They will have a prepaid credit card. So we are enhancing our e-wallet a lot, because we want to grow this side of the business. We think we have already a huge base of customers, but we see a great opportunity to bring more customers to our wallet. this is the main thing we're doing. Other than that, we are focused on the regulation. We are, always in contact with people in Brasilia, the regulators. We had in the past many meetings with them. We help them. They are always looking for ideas and suggestions, which I think it's very important because, they don't have the experience, the knowledge on this market. So yes, we are very excited with this year and looking forward for a fully regulated market.
Thank you, Ari, for joining us on today's iGaming Daily episode. And Anaya, our brilliant producer, thank you for putting this together perfectly as always. To our listeners, thank you for being with us. Make sure to subscribe to the newsletter of SBC Notícias Brasil and SBC Notícias to stay tuned on all things Brazil and Latin America. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to today's iGaming Daily podcast, supported by Optimove, the #1 CRM marketing solution for the iGaming market. If you want to find out more about some of the subjects raised today, feel free to explore any of the sites in the SBC News network or check out the latest edition of the SBC Leaders magazine. Happy reading.